Welcome everyone to Post Crisis Chat, the world's finest edition. I'm your co-host Randy, and with me is the ever-present, ever-wonderful.
Bryce,
Yes,
how we doing? If you're a first-time viewer, welcome. Please remember to like the video. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you can be notified next week when we upload our next episode.
yes, it's really such a small thing to do, but it really helps us grow the channel. If you're not a first-time viewer, welcome back. We are so thankful to have you here.
Please check out our socials. You can find us on Blue Sky and Patreon. The Patreon gets access to the Post-Crisis Chat Book Club as well.
Yes, we'll tell you a week ahead of time which issues we will be recording for the show and give you a chance to comment on those issues. We'll read some of your comments on the channel when you make them. Now, for those of you who have been with us a little while, you might notice that I introduced this as the world's finest edition. That's because Bryce is a brand new co host for the show. Up till now, it's just been me and Cookie. I want to welcome Bryce. And just a couple of questions for the first time, since this is your first time here. Before you read the comic for today's episode, had you ever read a comic before?
There was one that I bought in the little gas station next to my house as a young man that was about zombies, but I don't really know if that counts. So I'm going to say no. I'm not a comic book aficionado, just kind of diving into this, and I'm really excited to.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Just as a little background for me, I've been reading comics since I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, and I actually picked up my first comic book in a gas station off the spinner rack. So, anyway,
Young
on and
fella.
off for quite a few years now. So, definitely your first Batman comic, since it's your first comic. So, how familiar were you with Batman before this?
Let's say I was like cinematically familiar with Batman, right? Like mostly movies, especially like the Dark Knight era, I would say probably defined Batman for me. Plenty
Okay.
of plenty of cartoons growing up, but I wouldn't say it was anything that I like paid much attention to. It was just what was on,
Hmm.
cable back in the day. Nothing comic book. It was all cinematic, maybe a little bit of TV, mostly live action, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. I think my cinematic introduction to Batman was the '89 series with Michael Keaton as Batman. He will always be my favorite movie Batman just because he was the first for me. But over the years, I've just become a big Batman fan in general. And I thought that would be good reason to start with this, our first episode.
It was actually something I was curious about when reading this, as someone who's diving into this initially. How trend setting was this? Like, was this innovative? Was this anything new, or was this more like status quo, but they just like did it better than everybody else?
It's interesting you should ask that. The particular book that we're going to be reading through is the DC Finest Year 1 and 2 for Batman. So, to give you just a little bit of a background, and maybe some of our listeners, if they're not familiar, in 1985, DC Comics decided that their 30, 40 years of comic book history was too much at that point. There was just too much background, and they wanted to consolidate it. So they did this thing that was called Crisis on Infinite Earths. In the DC universe, there were different Earths, different multiverses. It was a multiverse. They're the ones who came up with the idea of a multiverse. The comics, the Superman that you had, the original Superman from the golden age of comics back in the 40s and 50s, he lived on a different world than the Silver Age Superman, who was the Superman from the 60s and 70s. And there were even other worlds beyond that. They called them Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3. They got all the way up to Earth 10. And Earth 10, that happened to be the Earth where the Nazis had won the Second World War and had taken over everything. So, you had some Nazi superheroes and you had some superheroes fighting back against that. So that was the big multiverse, and DC decided it was too much. And they decided they were going to have a crisis on Infinite Earths, and they were going to take all these infinite timelines and realities and multiverses and cram them into one and consolidate everything, consolidate the history. They killed off a lot of characters during Crisis on Infinite Earths. A lot of people at the time were really mad that that happened, but it turned out to be a turning point for comics in general. A lot of people will say we transferred from what we call the Bronze Age of comics over to the modern age. Happened during DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths, and also Marvel around the same time. Marvel Comics being famous for Spider-Man, the Avengers, all that stuff. They had something that was called Secret Wars, and this was basically the transition time where the comics became a lot more modern than they used to be. Now, back to your original question, is this innovative? This issue we're about to read? No, no, it's absolutely not. It's a little bit on
Okay.
the silly side, a little bit on the ridiculous side. But the really key thing here is, and I don't want to color it too much for you, but when we get to Batman Year One, which is the name of a series, it's 4 or 5 issues, that's where the innovation really starts to happen. And that is what a lot of people consider a turning point for Batman. His book became darker, it became more serious. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to color it too much, but we want to
Totally.
read the stories before so you can have that context so that when we get to year one, you can see what the change looks like. Because I want to establish a status quo first, and then you can kind of see how year one was revolutionary.
Perfect. And I think that answers my question if this was just kind of a comic book at the time.
Yeah,
Wasn't
definitely.
doing anything too special, and I definitely noticed the goofiness. I think in my notes I had wrote about that. I am not crapping on it or anything, but it's a product of its time for
It,
sure.
it
It seems
definitely
like.
is, and that's really why I wanted to start here, is because I want you to see that shift as it changes, as it
Okay.
happens. I do want to mention to our watchers that please be advised we will be talking about spoilers, but keep in mind these spoilers are 40 years old at this point. So you know what? If you didn't read the comic in the last 40 years, that's on you. Today we're going to be talking about Batman number 401. It is written by Barbara Kesel, pencils by Trevor Von Eeden, inks also by Trevor Von Eeden, and colors by Adrienne Roy. And I want to start with this cover. This cover with Magpie on the cover is just so incredibly 80s with some kind of messed up looking mohawk on Magpie. Thus far, this is my first interaction with Magpie, so I don't know much about her. But we also note that this is chapter one of the Legends crossover. So sorry for dropping you into the deep end, Bryce, but we'll talk about more about the Legends crossover as we move along. I will say this cover is very eye-catching. The solid red colors draw your eye to the gun and the jewels that Magpie is holding. Then your eyes are drawn to the red lens glasses Magpie is wearing, and we see the shape of Batman's cowl in her glasses. So, Bryce, I'd like to get your feelings on the cover.
So I'll mention that I didn't notice Batman's cowl until you said that, and I spent a pretty good amount of time, looking at this art and trying to appreciate it. So that's a really interesting note. But I love Magpie's aesthetic. I think she's like the perfect amount of goofy, where there's like definitely some mental illness going on, but in a fun way, you know,
That's a really good way to put it.
in a fun way. And I just love kind of like her attitude and her hyperfixation on like the shiny and stuff. And I think her outfit, her gripping those jewels, all kind of just ties that into that eccentric kind of persona she has. One thing that I guess I wasn't really prepared for with old school Batman was just the guns. I did not know that was a thing. So seeing her holding a 1911 on the cover was definitely a little jarring at first, but it gave me something to look forward to as well, which I enjoyed.
One thing that you may already be aware of from the movies, maybe not, I don't know, but Batman absolutely hates guns. So there are guns all over the place in his comic book. He's got to have something to fight against?
He's got to make the point. I get it. I just, it never clicked for me that they would play such a large role.
We open with Batman outside on a ledge listening to some people talk inside the building. The voices inside the room are talking about a previous crime Magpie has pulled off. It notes that it happened previously in Man of Steel issue number 3, which in hindsight, I did read that, but it's been several months since I read it, so I'd kind of forgotten about that. I do like how we get the editor's note showing that we are living in a shared DC universe. Magpie has been trapping jewelry. The people discussing the case seem to be concerned with how real Magpie's booby trapped replacement pieces look. They are also confused why she chose some of the jewelry that she did and why she's killing people. One of the people in the room is Commissioner Gordon, who is a longtime friend of Batman's. Commish can't believe Magpie is out on bail. Pair determined. All right, I'm having a night.
Don't be sorry, man. Dude, don't be sorry.
The pair in the room currently at a dead end with their investigation. So this being your first page of Batman, what'd you think?
I gotta say, there's a lot going on, right? It doesn't inspire confidence that they didn't see the pattern, right? Like that's right in front of them. And it also doesn't inspire confidence that this insane woman's out on bail, which is it's either, they're talking about like the judicial system in this world or just she has really good lawyers. I don't know what it was, but you are kind of just dropped into the craziness, right? Of like this bad woman's out on bail, she's going after these different jewels, and what is the connection? I wish it was a little trickier. It would have helped me like grapple onto it a little bit more if it was a tougher puzzle to solve, right? But I got to keep grounding myself and being like, this is a comic that's older than I am. The innovation wasn't quite there, so I try to give it a lot of grace, and I'm glad I did because it definitely picks up. I think just a few pages in too.
Okay, good deal. So the other man who was with Commissioner Gordon leaves and Batman enters. Batman has detected a pattern to the robberies. I mean, we got to make him look like a smart guy. It's his book.
So, and that's like the grace I want to give it is like they got to make them look good, and they only have so many panels to do so.
Exactly. And you know what? That's not bad for the greatest detective alive. No, sorry. Second greatest detective alive. The greatest detective is Detective Chimp, who is legitimately a chimp. Hopefully we get introduced to him at some point.
Yeah, I'd love that. That sounds fun.
Batman notes that Magpie is collecting jewelry that is named after birds. The eagle's heart, which is a ruby, the robin's nest, a sapphire, Stanley's turtle dove, which is an emerald. And Batman wants to arrange a trap for Magpie, some of the most famous jewels in the world, the Wayne collection. I wonder how Batman is going to talk Bruce Wayne into letting Batman use those jewels in a trap like this.
I, I've made this note a couple of times throughout this episode, and it'll come up again, I'm sure. Bruce Wayne seems like Batman's biggest fan, and Batman seems like Bruce Wayne's biggest fan. And that seems to be a recurring theme a couple of times throughout this.
Yeah, that's valid. I see that. Absolutely. And then on the next page, we actually find out that Batman tells Gordon that Bruce Wayne owes Batman a favor. Then we cut to Bruce Wayne making sure everything is as it should be for his jewelry showing. We find out that Bruce Wayne has a date, Detective Roberta Valley, who will be wearing the Falcon's Eye from the Wayne collection. Interesting that we have a bird related jewel. No wonder that Magpie wants to go after it. Detective Valley is unimpressed by Wayne's flattery. Gordon mentions that half the party's attendees and waitstaff are cops in plain clothes. Wayne wonders if it would be better to just send Batman after Magpie. Gordon insists that the GCPD does not need Batman's help. Hmm. I
Feeds
as we
into what I
go,
was saying.
yeah. And as we go through this, I think it's going to show that the GCPD, I don't know if they're incompetent or if they're just overworked. Um,
It's
Gotham,
interesting because I don't know. Like, come on, Bruce Wayne, and there should be like obvious puzzle pieces that they're putting together, both with him and with these other things. But I think, as a reader, just as like a watcher of movies or something, you do have to suspend disbelief for a
a
little
little bit,
bit
yeah.
and let the story happen, and I'm cool with that. I think as long as you understand what you're reading and have the correct expectations, this is, great storytelling.
Yeah. And another thing that we'll realize as we go along, Gotham is absolutely the most dangerous city on the entire planet in the DC universe. It's
Basically like Marvel's New York, right?
yeah, but taken cranked up to like 11. It's just a bad place because
Okay.
it's supervillains running around everywhere all the time. They can't keep them in jail. They can't keep them in Arkham. The city water supply is going to be poisoned at least once a month. I mean, it's bad.
Property values just have to be plummeting.
Exactly. We also get G. Gordon Godfrey at the party. And for those who don't know, Godfrey is a plant from Darkseid, who is one of the new gods. And I'm going to talk about a lot of things that aren't going to make any sense, and that's okay. We'll get there. Godfrey has been planted on planet Earth to take down the superheroes. Now, if you any of our viewers want to know more about that part, you can actually read the Legends miniseries in the Suicide Squad omnibus by Ostrander. It starts with the Legends issues and it gives you a good idea of the plot that Darkseid has going on. So, main thing you need to know, Bryce, Darkseid, big evil bad guy, probably the biggest bad guy in the whole DC universe. And he is focused, even though this man has this creature, God, has his own planet, he is focused on Earth because that's where all the superheroes are, and he absolutely hates the superheroes. Anyway,
And Godfrey is one of his henchmen?
um,
Minions?
yeah, pretty much. He's he's
Okay.
he's he's there on planet Earth to stir, especially Americans, stir them up, get them opposed to the superheroes, get the superheroes outlawed. Like even if you go back and read the Legends series, there's a point which Ronald Reagan, he's the president on of America in the DC universe. He outlaws superheroes. He tells them they can't be superheroes anymore. Superman has a meeting at the White House with Ronald Reagan where he promises Scout's honor he will stop being a superhero because the president has asked. So yeah,
Reaganomics.
that's
That's
pretty.
it seems like Godfrey is more than one thing, right? Like is it there seems to be like a religious aspect here as well that maybe is it's like he's a vehicle to also discuss those issues possibly. But it's hard for me to say. Like I have a note here. I'll show him where he can put his evangelical and then it cuts off. And I'm wondering if that's a jab at religion or if that's something I'm just too millennial to understand.
I The way I took that is so it was the moral majority that got Reagan elected. So it was the evangelical Christians that ushered Reagan into the White House.
Gotcha.
A lot of comic book writers really weren't big fans of Reagan. So they would to me that's a pot shot at Reagan, his administration, and the
Oh, oh.
evangelical Christians that put him there. And it's
See,
so
that's the
subtle.
exact context I was looking for because I was like, I don't. It seems like there's something going on that maybe I'm not attuned with. And perfect, right? Yeah. So it seems like he's also a vehicle to just kind of like take pop shots at the government. That's another thing I didn't really expect from comic books. You know, especially with like modern day Marvel and Disney.
Hmm.
I expected them to be very safe and not take sides. It doesn't seem like that was always the case.
No,
Interesting.
definitely not, and especially not in the 80s. In the 80s, comics, so that Bronze Age I was talking about, and Silver Age and Bronze Age, which were the 60s into the 70s and early 80s, was very goofy. It was very lighthearted. It was very nothing bad can ever happen. You had this thing called the Comics Code Authority that had rules about what could happen in a book. You can't show blood or very much blood. The good guys always have to win. The bad guys can't prevail for very long. You know, you might get an issue or two where it looks like the bad guys are winning, but in the end, the good guys always have to win. In the 80s, they finally, after dealing with the Comics Code Authority since the 50s, the Comics Code Authority finally kind of lifted some of the sanctions and made it easier to tell more adult stories. You could say the word damn in a comic book, finally, right?
Wow. And do you think that's a product of like comics having to grow up with their audience, because like the kids who grew up initially with them having, still being interested, but now, it's a kid thing and still trying to hold on to those audiences. You see it a lot with like modern media, with them kind of like adultifying it to, keep that fan base going. And I wonder if that was kind of like part of the same motivation there.
I think so. I think that could be part of it. And so it kind of it's gonna we're gonna digress a little bit, but that's okay. Kind of a little history lesson. In the 50s, especially the early 50s, there were comic books that were super gory. They would show sexual assault. They would show people getting
Oh,
shot.
wow.
They would show all kinds of blood and gore and things like that. And there were actual government hearings because
I could see that in the 60s, 70s.
in the
Satanic
50s.
Panic
This
was
was in the
hadn't even
50s.
the 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, in order not to be completely censored, the comic book companies agreed to number one, quit making all those horror comics. And then number two, to not be censored by the government, they agreed to have the Comics Code Authority, which was an
Uh,
independent body who would review the books and approve the books every single time. If you have the book handy, you go back to that cover.
it has that stamp, correct?
Yep,
Is that
approved by the Comics Code
Yep,
Authority in the upper
right
right.
up there. Yep.
Now, at this
Cool. I didn't
point,
realize that that was like a reactionary thing. I thought that was just sort of like 1950s being 1950s and
oh yeah,
everything being kind of like sterile. It's interesting to know that they went the other way first.
and then Marvel kind of pushed the envelope the first time by producing a Spider-Man comic that had one of Spider-Man's friends was a drug addict, and Spider-Man was helping his friend, get clean. He was going to try and help his friend get clean, and it was going to show how horrible drug addiction was. And Marvel submitted it to the Comic Code Authority, and the Comic Code Authority is like, you can't do that. You can't show a drug addict. You can't show even if it's in a negative light. You can't show this. And Marvel's like, "Yeah, okay, we're going to publish it anyway without the stamp on it." And that was the first time since the 50s that that had happened. And you know what? That comic book won all kinds of awards. It won all kinds of praise. And that's when the Comics Code Authority started to lighten up a little bit. And by the 80s, and that was in the late 60s, early 70s that happened. By the 80s, the Comics Code Authority had definitely lightened up quite a bit. And I think when we actually get to Batman Year One, those issues, I don't think they have the stamp on them. I could be wrong.
Oh,
We'll get there though. So I do want to circle back to the book.
yep. Please,
So
I digress.
does make no secrets. Commissioner Gordon makes no secrets that he does not like Godfrey. Wayne's date mentions how much she doesn't like Godfrey, while Wayne tries to steer his date away from Godfrey so as not to cause more strife. Godfrey, though, continues to run his mouth. He insists the public will turn against Gordon for his support of Batman. Then Godfrey accidentally, maybe, knocks over a serving tray out of a server's hand, covering Wayne's date, the detective, and the contents of the drinks of the serving tray. I don't know. What do you think? Did he do it on purpose?
So I was gonna hold on to this note until I believe it's the next panel, but we can
Okay.
discuss it now. Kind of like the big reveal with the waitress. But yeah, I initially made a note where I was like, Gottfried's in on this, and then I kind of got to the end of it, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I was wrong. But I think I just got the ick from Godfrey in general. I was like, this
Yeah.
guy's bad news, and I was trying to figure out what his angle was. But initially, yes, I very much thought he was in on it. It was a huge part of my conspiratorial mindset there.
I kind of wondered that myself. I kind of thought he was too.
It just lines up so perfectly, right? Like, how would the waitress have been able to do this without his involvement is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then this could be part of that goofy storytelling, where you have to kind of suspend disbelief. We need X to
Absolutely.
happen, so Y is going to happen to make X happen. So Gordon does warn Godfrey that one day Godfrey's mouth will get him in trouble. We switch to the bathroom where the detective is being cleaned up by the waitress. It turns out the waitress was actually Magpie, here to steal the diamond jewelry. Shocker. We cut back to the party where Godfrey is continuing to run his mouth about how superheroes are destroying modern society. Godfrey says that there would be no supervillains if the superheroes hadn't been the inspiration for the villains. Now, that's a theme that's discussed in a lot of comic books. Would there be supervillains without superheroes? You being new to this, what's your take on that?
So before my take, my gut reaction to this page, I wrote down the line "Evil creates its opposition is hard as hell." That is such a hard line, and it got me pumped up. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's fight some evil, and it feels sort of relative to the times that we're living in. But yeah, no, I agree. Right? Like, if there was no reason to stand up, people probably wouldn't. Um, I mean, it's people get complacent when times are easy, right? So when times are hard, you get heroes. And so I absolutely agree. And if the city is as bad as you are describing it to me, right? Like this apparently this hellhole. I don't know how else to describe it, of like criminals and insane people with technical prowess that brings the city down to its knees on like a weekly basis. Then absolutely you need heroes. I mean, what the hell are cops going to do against people like the Joker or even Magpie? You know, obviously they're not equipped for that. I totally agree that in times like this, you could see vigilante superheroes step up to the plate. I don't see that as being out of the realm of the possibility at all.
You actually agree with Bruce Wayne. As the argument continues, though, Bruce Wayne's date, the detective, bursts into the room screaming. Gordon, Wayne, and Godfrey look on in shock, which makes me realize maybe Godfrey wasn't a part of the whole plan. At
Doesn't
that
look
point,
that shocked to me.
say again?
He doesn't look that shocked to me. Oh, that's my only note on that. Like everybody else seems really shocked, but then you
Hmm.
kind of look at Godfrey and he's just kind of mildly annoyed.
Yeah, okay, okay, I could see that.
I did take
Maybe,
note of that initially.
yeah. And whoever did the art on the book, who was that? Trevor von Eden. He actually did a really good job with the faces. Like as we
I
go through
really
the
love the
book.
storytelling all around. It's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, see, my thing is faces. In my opinion, the faces in the comic book, they get across so much emotion, so much vibe about what people are feeling and things like that. And if an artist can't do a good face, it just annoys the hell out of me. And this guy does good faces, so I dig it.
It's really good. Yeah, I agree.
So Gordon's yelling for the cops to get everyone outside, which seems a little odd to me. If someone in the party has the jewelry, wouldn't you want to keep everyone inside to prevent them from escaping with it?
Maybe because like the other ones have been rigged to explode or like expel poison. He just wants to get people away from it. That was kind
Hmm.
of like my impression. I'm definitely not saying that this isn't confusing what's coming up, but that was my impression of what was going on there.
You know what? I think you're right, and I think I now understand that better. I missed that the first time around.
I do have some questions about the next few pages, but
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So we see in the meantime that Wayne is ducked away from the party, pulling away at his collar. We see he's wearing his Batman suit underneath. Like for real, that has to be really hot. Wearing a Batman suit with Kevlar or similar under a tux, not to mention having your tux specially cut to hide the fact that you're wearing a Batman suit, complete with utility belt underneath your clothes. Now, are you familiar with
suspending
Alfred?
disbelief.
Yes.
Yeah, the butler, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna bet
Yep,
that Alfred does Wayne's tailoring, so he can do things like that.
love it. And
Well,
what I really love too are these yellow blocks from Godfried as all this is happening in these boxes of him talking, basically talking smack about vigilantes.
yeah, yeah, and that was meant to be part of the Legends crossover, tying this into all of that, so that you go out and buy all the books that Legends is crossing over with. But yeah, it does. It's a good juxtaposition between what Godfrey is saying and what Batman is actually doing.
It's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
And then while getting changed, Batman realizes that Magpie snuck in as a waitress.
This is the page I have questions in. I guess
Okay.
where are these punches coming from? Why are people throwing punches? That's what I don't understand. I wrote a note about it and everything, and I went back and I read like the last few pages to see if I had missed something. But people are just throwing punches for no good reason, and I don't know why.
I'm wondering if it's meant to indicate that the crowd is getting heated about the fact that Godfrey is just going on because when you read the Legends crossover, like the main core of the story, Legend story, people start getting violent against superheroes as time goes on. The
That would
more
make sense, and
they
maybe
work them
that's the
up.
piece I'm missing. You know, but yeah, initially as someone, especially just jumping into this, it was confusing. I thought I'd missed a page or something because it goes kind of like talking smack about vigilantes to just like him breaking up a fist fight, and it's a little jarring, but I don't think it's too jarring. Even though I didn't understand it, I was able to just kind of slip right back into the story.
Okay. I'm almost wondering, looking at this panel, the guy on the left is a cop. And I'm wondering if the guy on the right, because we find out Magpie has henchmen at the party too. I'm wondering if that might be Magpie's henchmen trying to get away.
Definitely possible, and maybe that's the point, is just to kind of leave it ambiguous and just kind of like try to express the chaos of the situation
Yeah.
instead of like exactly what's happening. And I definitely got chaos from all that. So
Yeah,
if that
that's
was the
true.
point, point made.
So Batman makes his way over to Bruce Wayne's date, the detective, just as the gas is being released from the fake jewelry that Magpie put on the detective. The detective laments that she could not run out of fear of hurting the people around her. She dies in Batman's arms. I think that goes back to what you were saying about get everybody out of here because of the poison, and the detective wanting to make sure that she's the only person who takes the hit.
Yeah, and they just wouldn't know, right? Every single one's been different. So err on the side of caution at that point.
Yeah. And then we have Godfrey jumping up on the table, taking the opportunity to talk about how bad superheroes are again. That this situation was an unprovoked attack by Batman. Some folks in the background seem to be agreeing with Godfrey, while others disagree. Alfred tells the party that Wayne has gone upstairs to rest. Hmm. Once again, suspense of disbelief, like you mentioned.
It all kind of goes, yeah, right. It's just a continuing theme, I think, and I'm fine with it. It works as long as you're willing to make those concessions.
So then we cut to the Batcave where Robin, and this particular Robin is Jason Todd. Bryce, you want to remember him for later. I won't say why though. They are
Okay.
jumping into the Batmobile, which this version of the Batmobile looks like it's from the 60s TV show. I'm really not a fan of that show. I really don't like that show, but I have to wonder, have the comics really not updated the Batmobile in 20 years? Or is this a nostalgia throwback thing because we were just coming out of the crisis? We're trying to get people back into the comics and the new universe that's all on one world now, showing us something familiar. Either of those could be valid. Did you ever watch the TV show?
I mean, episodes in passing here and there, Boomerang and things like that on TV, but not religiously, not enough to have any sort of like nostalgia about the car. I think the first car I probably even remember is the old, I think it was Michael Keaton Batman,
Oh, okay, yeah. The best
Arnold
Batmobile, in
Schwarzenegger.
other words.
Is it? Okay. Well, at least I got in on that one.
Hey, that's
If
that's
we're
my
talking about
opinion
goofy
because
Batman, that's up there too, though. That era.
yeah, well, that was my intro to Batman, so that will probably be always hold my favorite memories from it. Now, in the comics, Batman is convinced that Magpie will want to take her new shiny toy and hide it in her nest. Batman thinks her nest is at a museum. There really isn't any explanation for why Batman thinks this, which is mildly annoying.
Well, I think if you go back to page 1,
Okay.
I think it's brought up in that conversation of that being her old hideout beforehand.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
You know, let me see. It's definitely brought up at some point beforehand. Maybe. Oh yeah, yeah. Page. I'm not sure. It's the one where Batman busts in to talk to the commissioner. Says,
Ah,
"Yes,
okay.
I'm keeping the Gotham Museum of Antiquities under surveillance,
Ooh,
as it was her base before, and I have a feeling she'll go back there eventually."
you know what? I missed that. Good call, Bryce. Good job paying attention.
I tried this time. I really tried.
So that's how Batman knew. Batman and Robin spot a truck out front of the museum, which is the catering company from the Wayne party. I feel like the bad guys should have probably hidden that a little better, but you know what?
Or the
They were
cops could
so
have noticed, but either way, you know.
yeah, they were so excited to get their new toy home, and they just rushed out of the van as soon as they got there and gave no more thought to it. And at that point, Batman speculates that maybe the caterer was in on it,
No, it's kind of a stretch.
right? And maybe that's how the other jewels were grabbed so easily. Then we see Batman and Robin sneak into Magpie's next, where they spot Magpie singing about how she stole the Falcon's eye. I love that she's singing about it. That she's so happy.
She legitimately seems jazzed up. I almost kind of don't want Batman to ruin this for her. Again, I like Magpie. I wish we saw more of this kind of energy in the animated series and movies and things like that.
Yeah, that would actually
Kind of
be kind of cool.
goofball villains, you know.
Well, at that point, Batman is spotted, and the fight between Batman, Robin, Magpie, and her gang is on. One of Magpie's henchmen is firing a gun in Batman's direction, and we all know how much Batman hates guns. So Batman throws a batarang straight at the henchman's face, but the henchman seems unfazed. I mean, you're gonna take a chunk of metal that's swirling to the face, and you're gonna be okay. I mean, that dude's pretty tough.
As Batman put it, had like a fire plug. Still not totally sure what a fire plug is, but I assume a very dense, immovable object. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny too, and it's good storytelling because it comes full circle a little bit later on.
Yes, I agree. It does, and you're right about that. The fight continues on the next page, where Robin makes a slightly clever pun. One of the henchmen says, "I'm just the driver," and Robin's like, "Well, I'm the pile driver." As Robin lands on the guy's face, putting the full force of his body weight behind the blow. I legitimately chuckled at that. I mean, it was a bit of
That's
a
the
dad
second
joke, but
best joke in this. Second best. I think the funniest one in my opinion is earlier in the book when Batman looks at the waitress and says, "Not so much caviar. I'd like to stay rich." That got a good chuckle out of me, but this came in a close second.
yeah, you're right. That was a good one. I think I chuckled more at this one though. I smiled at the previous one. This one actually got a chuckle out of me.
See, it appeals to everybody. I love it.
So the fight continues on the next page. Magpie tries to get away with Robin proclaiming, "I'll stop her." Robin tries to grab Magpie and grabs her top, pulling it down to her waist. So we get a wardrobe malfunction a la Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson in the 2004 Super Bowl. I wonder how they got that one through the Comics Code Authority.
I was not ready for that one.
No.
And the fact that he's like, "Oh, my bad," and just
Yeah.
lets her run off, I'm like, "Robbie, what are we doing, bud? You're fighting crime. Modesty's kind of like a afterthought, no?" But no, this also did get a good chuckle out of me because it sometimes, even though it's so beyond belief, that it's ridiculous, that ridiculousness is welcome and hilarious. So,
Yeah, I was quite shocked at that moment in the book, and I thought it was funny too. And the fact that she's able to get away because Robin is like, "Oop, my bad."
yeah. I made a note on this, and I'll make it quick. I was initially thinking, like, man, Robin got a bad rap in like all of the other media. He actually seems pretty competent. And then this hit, and I was like, nah, he got what he deserved. But anyway,
quick little history lesson here. This particular Robin is the second Robin. The original Robin was Dick Grayson, and at the time this is taking place, Dick Grayson has moved on to become his own hero called Nightwing.
Oh,
And then,
Nightwing used to be Robin?
yes,
That's interesting.
Nightwing was Robin before he became
I've
Nightwing.
I've heard the name, I'm familiar with it a little bit, I just didn't realize there was that connection.
Okay, yeah. And then Batman caught Jason Todd, this Robin, trying to steal the hubcaps off the Batmobile. It was the 80s.
They employed him? I mean, the kid's obviously got some poor decision-making, skills. Stealing the hubcaps off the Batmobile is like a pretty surefire way to get your butt kicked.
And I want to say at
So
the time he was only like 9 or 10 years old too.
oh gosh. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd be interested to learn more about that backstory too.
Batman catches Jason Todd trying to steal the hubcaps off the Batmobile and finds out that Jason Todd is an orphan living alone on the streets. Batman decides that he likes having a Robin. Dick Grayson and him had some conflict because Dick wanted to become his own man, and Batman's like, "No, you need to stick with me." And Dick Grayson's like, "No, screw that, I'm out." So Batman spent some time without a Robin, and everybody commented on the fact that Batman really needs a Robin in order to kind of keep him more grounded. Anyway, a little bit of backstory on Jason Todd. So Magpie gets on an elevator as Batman finishes off the last henchman. Magpie activates some sort of trap in the room, sort of like the myriad of traps have activated on Bryce while we play D&D, which is where I know Bryce from.
Absolutely. Many a trap has been activated against me. But going on 6 years now, 7 years now, we've been playing D&D at the same table, and I believe we're about to jump into a second game together next month. The Eric's game. Are
Hmm.
you a part of that? Yep. So
That
that'll
was
be a good
my game
time.
up until I needed to take a break.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, is it the Wednesday game now?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, we can talk about that later. But
So, yeah.
yeah, really, really cool panel. I think it's very comic booky in
Yes.
certain ways.
It definitely is. On the next page, oh no, the henchman who's been hit in the face with a batarang, punched repeatedly by Batman and slammed into the floor several times, gets back up and puts Batman in a sleeper hold, telling Batman he's going to die. So I do have one small spoiler alert. Batman doesn't die yet. And that won't happen for another 15-ish years.
Okay, it's interesting to know that it happens though.
Batman quickly dispatches with the henchman, maybe for good this time. And next we get a magpie's trap. It is incredibly elaborate with lasers that lower themselves to the floor, with Batman and all of Magpie's henchmen inside the room. Robin tries to kick the glass or plastic or whatever it is, but it's too thick. He can't kick it open. Oh no, the dynamic duo is trapped.
Again, very comic booky. I do believe there's 30 E's on that page between like the different little, sound effects per panel. But I love it. I think it's such a cool little comic book trap, cool little predicament. And it leaves you with the one question I think it wants to, which is how are they going to get out of it?
Yes, but Batman says he has an idea. He can use a nearby mirror to bounce the lasers off of each other, or something. Batman also says he is somehow taking care of the fact that Magpie is escaping. Come on, Batman, the book is almost over. Let us in on your secret.
I love it.
We see
I
Magpie
love
reach the
all of it.
top of the stairs during her escape, trip, fall, and the jewelry she was holding goes flying.
Batman as an unseen ally that is just fate and luck, it seems.
Back inside the trapped room, Batman. Oh, I know who that unseen ally is. I think it's called the Rider.
Very much so. That plot armor stuff, yeah.
Back inside the trapped room, Batman is using Jules to redirect the laser. One of the henchmen wakes up and Robin knocks him back to sleep. I think that was the guy who got the pile driver earlier in the scene. Batman somehow redirects the laser with the jewel and disarms the trap. I'm not really clear on how that happened given the art here. Do you have any ideas, Bryce, what how that was supposed to work?
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know if it was disarmed. You never necessarily see it disarmed, but they do say it, right? And just right there, then I hit the switch and disarm the trap. So I'm guessing what happened is they broke that glass, someone slips through and just hits the button on the other side, those four buttons. I know they're strapped on space, limited space in here, but they could have done a better job at describing what happened there. I agree.
Maybe, and it's also possible that somewhere along the way a page got cut out because they needed more room in the book for something else. That, especially in the early days, was known to happen. We need an extra page for ads, so cut this one page out. It won't. Nobody will notice.
I could see that. It definitely seems like the challenge here is how condensed the storytelling is in these
Yeah.
books for the writers.
So then we cut back to Magpie trying to make her escape. However, she has to get her stolen jewelry out from under the ruby laser display in the museum, which is apparently where her laser trap came from. Stopping to grab the jewelry gave Batman enough time to catch up with her.
I did not notice the ruby laser display thing. That's such a cool little detail. Just some like world building, immersive storytelling.
Yeah.
She's still stealing. She didn't even invent it. She just stole that too because it was shiny, and that's interesting.
And that's one
It's
of the
cool.
reasons I love doing this show like this because when I do this with Cookie, he'll notice things I didn't notice and I'll notice things he didn't notice. So we both get a bigger perspective and a more well-rounded perspective talking about it and going over it. That's why I love doing this so much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Magpie is shocked that Batman escaped her trap, despite this being Batman's comic book. Magpie threatens to shoot Batman with explosive darts. Batman then uses a jewel to blind Magpie before she has a chance to do that.
I love the art of her being dazzled. I want to use that as like my picture on video games and stuff. I think that's just such a cool little bit of art. The style is just awesome. I love everything about it. I will say it took me a second of like looking at this to understand what the heck was going on. Finally be like, oh, it's like light from the street that he's using or outside or something to just illuminate all of those gems that were down there. Again, I don't, they didn't really do a great job at explaining that he grabbed those. I think as long as you have, two brain cells to rub against one another, you can figure it out.
hmm On the last page of the book, Batman gets Magpie to surrender because he's essentially blinded her at this point. Magpie calls Batman a horrible man, and we come to the end of the book. I kind of like how Batman's like, I am who I have to be. Let's go. But he's got his arm around here. He's like comforting her, like, you just got busted, but maybe you'll stay in jail this time.
It's interesting. Misread that line, and it fundamentally changed my like opinion of this whole thing. So
Okay,
I'm
so
reprocessing it now. I
tell
read
tell me what you
honorable.
originally thought.
I read honorable. So
Oh.
maybe just didn't give it enough time, and I just saw I for whatever reason saw honorable. But yeah, that does change the dynamic of it. I almost thought that he like talked her down, but no, he beat her down, right? Like he stole her shiny objects and essentially her will to fight, right? And she's not happy about it, which I think actually makes it better for me, right? Like he doesn't get to be forgiven by the people that he arrests. He doesn't get to still sleep well at night. There are costs to doing what he does. I think that makes it even more potent. So I actually like this version better than what I initially thought it was.
Hmm. Interesting perspective, and I agree with you. So to me, overall, this book mostly felt like a filler issue. Like it was just not that important, except for introducing us to Godfrey, doing his grandstanding. And knowing what I do about Godfrey and what happens to him, I feel like this book was mostly to introduce Batman readers to Godfrey and his positions against superheroes, which is actually kind of pretty cool in the grand scheme of things because considering the circumstances surrounding the Legends crossover that we kind of talked about, I really that's one thing I love about comic books is it's a shared universe. So there's references to what's happening in other books. And somebody will say, "Oh, that reference we had back at the beginning, Magpie was in Superman and now he's over here in Batman. I'm sorry, she's over here in Batman."
I
And
think it's really cool.
sorry, go ahead.
Totally. No, I think it's really cool too.
So, in my opinion, the art on the book started really well, but it seemed to get simpler and more rushed as the book went along. I felt like the artist was having a hard time meeting the deadline, and in a lot of the panels, there's almost no background, and Batman is shrouded in black a lot with no details. Although I do find it interesting, on the next to last page and last page, you talked about how much you liked the sun shining through the jewels and the way that looked. So maybe I'm being a little harsh on the artist
I
here.
think I think they had fun with the fun shots for sure, but I also noticed the lack, or not the lack, but the drop in quality there. Actually, I skipped to the next issue to see if I was going crazy or if like the art was going to get better, and it gets better. I mean, some of the first shots or first scenes of the next one are some really high detail, like large crowd scenes, and that kind of showed me that yeah, there were a couple of tiles there that were phoned in at the end. But again, I some of those those scenes were so good, the dazzling eyes and stuff, that maybe they just put too much time into those and didn't have enough time for everything else.
Yeah,
But I agree with you totally.
and in a lot of books, especially more modern books, you'll get the same artist for an entire arc. And arcs these days are usually between 3 to 6 issues. And you get the same artist over that entire arc. And then they'll switch out artists so it gives the artist time to catch up. So they maybe switch between two different artists going back and forth on a book, or depending on circumstances, maybe you just get a whole line of artists, one working on each book. And it seems like back in the 80s, it was more like get the book out on time, get as many books out as possible, even if the artwork suffers a little bit.
Totally. And I could see how that could be a crunch. I'm quickly flipping through it, and like the shading is definitely, I mean, panel 1, man, is gorgeous. The detail on the hair on Commissioner Gordon, or page 1, not panel 1. And that last pan or page, totally different art styles almost, it feels like. Like they definitely were running out of steam there.
And one thing you'll notice too, as you read more comic books, you'll start to notice backgrounds a little bit more. And when there's a lack of a background, and a lack of a background almost always means the artist was trying to hurry up.
You see a lot of that in those final few pages.
Yeah.
A lot of it. A lot of black backgrounds, a lot of teal backgrounds.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
When Cookie and I do the show, we rate the book and we pick something out of the book that was interesting. And so, to give you an example, in this book, we rated out of 5. I gave this book 1.75 out of 5 jewels deflecting lasers. The story was just a little too simple for my taste. The art just got worse as the book went along. Godfrey aside, there's no real reason for the story to exist. It's non consequential. So, Bryce, what would you rate it?
Just out of fairness, as someone who doesn't know comic books very well, I'm gonna definitely say it's mid. So I'm gonna go with a 3. I'm gonna be more generous than you. And my main critique, the thing I find most interesting about it is Magpie, probably. I think that's a really creative character. Simple, right? I don't think you could build her out, give her greater ambitions or anything other than just stealing jewels, but she's fun. I like her the most. The downsides, I think I agree with you pretty much across the board. It is a really simple narrative. I would say its main problem is it expects you to do more work suspending disbelief than the artist put into some of the panels. It's a lot of work to keep it going at some points as the police fail to kind of get things just done, basic things done. Like, once the whole reveal about the caterers made, it's like, how was that? That was probably a theme at all of these different robberies, and no one really connected it. So it leans into that whole just cops being incompetent in this Gotham City setting vibe. But I think for me, right, I think I have a unique perspective. Is like, this is my first comic book. I think I'm probably going to have more love for this comic book than it deserves going forward, as just kind of being my first, right? And I did have a good time all
Oh,
around.
good. I'm
I thought
glad
it
you
was fun.
enjoyed it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We're really glad that you were here with us, watching us, and joining us. We do this for the love of comic books in general, both new love and long founded old love.
Absolutely. Please join us on our Patreon, where we have our post crisis chat book club for our members. We'll let our patrons get their say on the book, and we'll read some of those comments on the air once we get them when we do this recording.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget to check the description for our links to our Amazon affiliate page. You can pick up the book we're reading tonight in various formats. If you click our Amazon affiliate link and make a purchase, a little bit of your purchase comes back to us and the channel, but it doesn't cost you any extra. Just help support us.
Yes, please do that. And you can also follow us on Blue Sky. The link is in the description. We'll be announcing there when we post new episodes. And also, if you could give this video a like, give the channel a subscribe, and comment on the video as soon as you see it, those things will really help support and grow the channel. We don't use any AI here. This is all real people doing real things, and YouTube doesn't really like that. So, the more that you interact with the video, the more it helps put us above those AI channels that are just plain crap. All right, so we
Absolutely. Supporting humans is like supporting local.
100%. So sign off phrase. Cookie and I have been going back and forth. We've recorded 20, 21 episodes now, and we still haven't got 100% one we like. Do you have any ideas, Bryce?
This is shit I rock at, man. I do like tag nines and shit. I love this. Post crisis chat. There's got to be a pun in there somewhere. I can work with that. Post crisis chat. So, what have you guys gotten so far?
So you will have absolutely no context for this, but that's okay. May your fruit hang low and your jungle always be trimmed.
I feel like that's dripping in context.
It's
Okay,
really
let's
not.
see. So, may your fruit hang low. Thanks for joining us at Post Crisis Chat, where not every issue is a crisis, but every
Hey!
episode is.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. We're going to go with that. Thanks for joining us,
Okay,
everybody. Have a good night.
awesome. Have a good night.